This show is Life Matters with me, Renee Mariano. And then we're going to have an interview with a wonderful woman, and her name is Abigail or Abby Lewis. And she is amazing. She works with folks that are coming out of incarceration. Is that a good word, Abby?
Yep.
You're on.
Oh, well, hello. Thank you.
And she is does amazing work. And the name of your nonprofit is?
Golden Rule Reentry.
Yes. And what I loved about that, Wonder is barking, everybody. Wonder is my service dog. Actually, I'm her service dog. But she's barking. And so if you hear her in the background, she's just a little Yorkie, spoiled rotten. So, Abby, what I loved about the name of your nonprofit is the Golden Rule. You know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So if I went to jail, did I ever go to jail? I don't know. And if I went to jail and for a period of time, or prison, and I came out, just me, little old me, I would want to be treated like you would treat yourself, unless you're mean to yourself. But I would want people to give me encouragement and care and help me. Not do everything for me, but help me so that I don't go back to jail or prison. That's what I would want. So Golden Rule is a brilliant name. How'd you come up with that?
Well, thank you. It's a concept that's always been important to me. And when I finally realized the time is right to start this organization, I named it that because really, even though what we do physically is help people who are coming out of incarceration, the message is to the rest of the community. And as we talk today, you'll learn more about how we want to engage the community to support folks who are coming out of prison. And so the Golden Rule really is a message. It's a message to everybody who has the opportunity to do that, to be kind, because being kind to each other really is what this society needs right now.
Oh, boy, is that true. So what I usually do in the beginning of my show is people get to actually learn the secret of life. And so I'm going to play that music. And before I do, I want to tell you that this is KSKQ 89.5 FM in Ashland and 94.1 FM in Medford. And I also want to tell you that if we have breaks in your listening on the FM station, because we've been having a little trouble with the radio, with the signal, that you can listen on kskq.org and it'll be pure and perfect. So if you hear anything, because I can't hear if it's not doing well, please go to kskq.org and you can hear this entire show. And also that Abby wants me to tell you, and I think it's a great thing, is that she's got a huge write-up in the Locals Guide this month. So it's mailed out. When you get the Locals Guide, look for Abigail Lewis. So tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, gosh, where do you start with something like that?
I was born, whatever.
Well, I was born in England, so that is something people find interesting. I moved to Georgia, the state of Georgia in the United States, at the age of 5. Wow. So, I learned to adjust pretty quickly. Yeah. To the Southern lifestyle. It didn't really fit me, though, so eventually I made my way into the West Coast. And, I've always been, I call them seeds of change. I'm just one of those people. I can't help it. I don't want to be a seed of change necessarily, but it's just the way I'm wired.
What does that mean, seed of change?
Well, let me put it to you this way. Originally, I became an activist out of college. I worked for Greenpeace and Planned Parenthood and the ACLU. You know, any issue, I was on board with that. And trying to make a difference. And as a good friend of mine called it, she said I was a reactivist. And I was always trying to fix what wasn't working out there. And there's a lot. It's a lot, and it's too much. And it really kind of wore me out. And so I did have a life change at some point where I decided to become a proactivist instead of a reactivist. And
Smart.
yeah, it's a survival strategy, if nothing else.
It's a way to take care of yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So instead of trying to stop all the bad things, I just started to wanting to create things that were positive and something within my scope of activity that I could actually accomplish.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. And so from Georgia, you went to the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And how'd you get involved in work with people like prisoners? And
Well, you know, it's something I had always wanted to do, always. And the opportunity never presented itself to me. At some point I thought about working for the prison system, but I just didn't feel good about that. And no disrespect to anyone, but I just felt like I would be a cog in a machine that was creating more harm. It just wasn't the direction. And if you'd asked me 3 years ago about it, I would have had no idea how I was going to connect with this certain population that I wanted to help. There's something about being a woman in her 50s, because I'm in my 50s now. I don't know, just the confidence. And I realized I just wanted to do this. So being that I was from the private sector, I've always worked for like small nonprofits and small businesses. I basically decided to take a year to volunteer all over Medford in different organizations so that I could meet both the people that I wanted to help and not help, but just work with.
Right.
And also the other organizations, because I didn't want to recreate the wheel. I didn't want to step on toes. I didn't want to think that I knew what the answer was, you know?
Yep. Well, that's the way to get experience, is to work for others. And then
Absolutely.
you came out on your own, and I want to know what inspired you to start Golden Rule Reentry. It's such a great 3 words. It says everything.
Yeah, that golden rule will probably keep coming back to that concept. You know, I'm not a religious person, but I do think that the golden rule was one of the best sort of words of wisdom from, that's come out of Christianity. And I do think that, as far as the incarcerated population goes, I watched a TED Talk and somebody said on there, if you had to wear a T-shirt that had the worst thing that you've ever done on the T-shirt, and that's what you had to wear all around every day.
Whoa.
And that's kind of what we do with people who come out of prison. I mean, that criminal record follows them everywhere. And so there are 2 things that actually inspired me. One is that I read the book CPTSD, From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker.
Wow.
That book explained the effects of trauma and how people who respond to trauma, how they function later in life. And it absolutely explained the entire world to me. I suddenly looked at myself and everybody I knew and was like, oh, trauma is at the root of these weird
Sure
behaviors, not an immoral impulse, but more of a response to the way that you were raised.
That's right.
The other thing that deeply inspired me was Father Boyle, who started Homeboy Industries down in LA. It's the largest gang intervention program. And he talks about a culture of radical tenderness. And you'll probably...
Say that again. Oh, I love that.
Actually, it's not radical. He says extravagant tenderness.
Oh, but all of that.
The
Radical.
tenderness. I mean,
Yes.
for someone to have the nerve to use that language, and I needed to hear that because that's really where I'm coming from too. And as a woman and as someone who hasn't worked in this field, I mean, it's a little crazy to start out with that sort of intention. But he made it possible by speaking to that. And I realized that no matter what programs you have that you're offering people, if you don't include that tenderness, and by tenderness, what we mean is respect. It's being trauma-informed. It's seeing the whole person. It's not judging them. It's understanding that they have obstacles to overcome. And that frame, that lens, if you look at people that way, then the compassion starts to build. And that's what these people need more than anything.
That's right. Well, I know it's right. I have to read something, but I know it's right because I volunteered in a full security, full lockdown state prison for 11 years.
That's just amazing.
And it's so great to, when I heard about you, I was so excited to connect with you because I understand
Yeah.
being that close. And I would go inside the prison, and one of the things I did is I co-led for 2 years with a master's in psychology, a workshop entitled Love and Forgiveness. And there were an average of 20 men that came in. They had to have full body inspection, if you will. And it was a weekend, so it was over 8 times every time. And they were willing to do that. And they had been coming in with Leonard Shaw as his name for many years before I was asked to co-lead with him. And these guys were down for murder, most of them, for the rest of their lives. And it was the most beautiful work.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, beautiful work.
I mean,
And being a small blonde woman, I was blonde at the time, not anymore. You know, they tried to mess with me a little bit, and I would just say, hey, you know, here we are together. Let's cooperate. Let's not try to push little old me around because I could call the man, and you don't want that. No, we don't want that. So it was a phenomenal experience that I'll never forget. And hopefully I helped people to see more about being human.
I'm
And that
sure
was
you
part
did.
of it.
I'm sure you did. I mean, the fact that you were working with healing and forgiveness, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, because
Self-forgiveness.
indeed, because shame is crippling.
Yes.
It is such a crippling thing. And you know, again, going back to the golden rule, that's one of the things is they really don't need everybody pointing fingers at them. They've done their time.
Right.
They've done their part of the social contract by doing time, and it's, you know, nobody's forgiving, you know, the things that have been done. They're, you know, we can't just forgive them away, but we can forgive the people because they've done their time.
Well, you know, I looked into the eyes of many people that did pretty horrific things, many men, and you know, frankly, who I saw behind those eyes was who I am, who all of us are.
That's right.
I used to say it was God. You know, I saw God in those eyes.
Yeah.
And the way we did the work was, it was a Gestalt Workshop. So they would sit in the middle. They would agree to sit in the middle of a circle of 20 people, and we'd have 2 chairs. And they would do their crime as if it were happening now, and then they would go to the other chair and be their victim. And I can tell you that I never didn't cry, and it was okay.
Yeah.
You know, and there was so much peace inside when they would do that work.
That's one of the most powerful
fabulous.
things you can do. You know, one of the volunteer things I did was at Resolve. That's the Resolve Center here in Medford. They do restorative justice processes, and they have a volunteer program, which I highly recommend to anyone interested, where you do restorative justice processes with youth offenders. And that is one of the, you know, first we talk about the different kinds of harm. There's physical harm, financial harm, time harm, and emotional harm.
Right.
Then we have them talk about thinking errors, you know, oh, they won't miss this. They already have everything. I deserve it. You know, there's all kinds of ways you can rationalize bad behavior. So we talk about that. And then the third class, they have to tell us what happened from the victim's point of view.
Right.
And it's such an amazing thing to watch that transition of consciousness, for lack of a better word, when someone suddenly sees it a different way.
Yes.
That's the breakthrough.
It is. And, you know, recidivism is huge. A lot of people, we don't know how to change. We're afraid to change. You know, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't.
Yeah.
And so to have compassion for people that make mistakes and get caught,
Yeah, and get caught. Yeah, because I mean, it's the whole thing about throwing stones. I mean, everybody, we all have things we've done that we're not proud of.
Right.
And for people coming out of prison, it's unfortunate, but it's incredible. The deck is already stacked against them. The number of commitments that they have to fulfill to the courts, to their, appointments, to their recovery. It's a lot. It's a lot for and getting housing. I mean, right now, getting housing is hard if you're perfect. Right. Imagine if you have bad credit, a criminal record, and evictions on your past. It's really definitely hard. So it's very difficult sometimes for these people to just even and overcome these obstacles. And honestly, Renee, that is why I do this work, because I have so much respect for the number of obstacles, both externally and internally, that our particular population have to deal with.
Yes, I understand. I hope everyone listening, or a lot of people that are listening, begin to understand not to be afraid of these human beings, but to see them as human beings. And they can reoffend. I mean, people do reoffend, but only because they don't know how to do it any other way. So what inspired you to start Golden Rule Reentry?
Well, that was when I suddenly understood the impacts of trauma. Then I just got a whole different read on what's going on with our justice systems and the people that are in them. And so, we are trauma informed, and that's a word that may not be familiar to a lot of people. Yeah. Trauma informed means that you take an approach to people that instead of asking, "What's wrong with you?" you ask, "What happened to you?" Right? There's a lot of debate about what trauma informed. There's no one definition of it. Mm-hmm. But I have to say, here in Southern Oregon, I've been so impressed with the amount of resources and attention that's been placed on this, in large part due to Southern Oregon Success, which is run by Peter Buckley. He does, not just Peter, but they're now training people to do ACEs trainings. ACEs are adverse childhood experiences. And it's just 10 questions. It's, were you physically abused, sexually abused, emotionally abused, neglected? Did you witness your mother getting beaten or violence in the family? Did you have a parent in prison? And there's just a direct correlation between your ACEs score and actually your physical health and your ability to thrive. It's not a sentence. It doesn't mean if you had a lot of bad things that happened to you that you're never going to have a good life, but it means that you're not set up for success in this world. You're set up to survive under harsh conditions. So
that's true.
Yeah. Anyway, so being trauma informed means that the way that we work at Golden Rule is we don't judge. We don't judge people. Good. We don't see your failures as failures. If you fall out of your recovery, we understand that there's a lot of things going on there. Now, I'm sure there's some people out there that are possibly irritated by what I'm saying. And, I'm not making excuses for people. We're not excusing behaviors. We're looking at the reasons behind them. Right. Because once you look at the reasons behind people's behaviors, it gives you a chance to help in a way that's constructive. The model of punishment serves its purpose to some degree, but without the understanding of why the person is doing what they're doing, and without addressing that, as a society, we're just going to keep perpetuating the problem, especially through prisons, because prisons are basically trauma factories.
Absolutely.
And so, it's just a mental shift, really, more than anything.
It is.
And that's what Golden Rule is. We are, we're very new. We started last year. So a big part of what we're trying to do, and we haven't really even begun yet, is to get out there in the community and start educating the community on the impacts of trauma and how they can help.
Oh, that's what we're doing right now.
That's right, Renee. You're helping me do that. This is a big win right here.
Yes.
And I did want to let people know The Wisdom of Trauma is a film that's only viewable this week until the 10th of October, which is Saturday. If you go to thewisdomoftrauma.com, this is a documentary. It's an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's Gabor Mate. Right?
Gabor Mate, who is an absolute pioneer saint in the field of trauma. He's worked with the most severely addicted people on the planet, and he has been able to identify ways to heal them through connection. But so please go to thewisdomoftrauma.com and register to watch this film. If there's one thing you take away from this interview, actually, just anybody listening to that, if you can go there, register to watch the film, it's free. I would encourage you to do that.
So part of looking at trauma, a lot of people are so afraid to even face their own trauma.
Yeah.
And so watching something like this or answering those questions or, it makes life so much better, even if you've never been incarcerated, to really understand that trauma, it can be healed. And so many people avoid it. And
it's a horrible word. I mean,
Yes.
the word trauma is
That's right.
traumatizing, and that is...
So what would you suggest?
I'm really casting about for that right now. I think the wisdom of trauma is trying to soften it by saying the wisdom of trauma.
right.
What we've noticed at Golden Rule is we offered a couple trauma support type services, and nobody would touch it with a 10-foot pole
Right,
because
correct.
it's traumatizing to even think about it. No one wants to go there.
Or even admit they were traumatized, right?
Yeah, well, I know people are pretty easy to admit it. I asked because there's a great book right now called What Happened to You by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry. And I recommended it to one of the people I work with. And he was like, I know what happened to me. But here's the deal. This is what the science is showing. Gabor Mate is talking about it. A lot of people are talking, a lot of the science community is talking about the antidote to addiction, and the antidote to trauma is actually connection, right?
Right.
So you don't always have to go into your trauma.
Right.
Everybody's got a different way to heal, and there's so many healing modalities out there. And I just want anybody who does feel like they've experienced trauma to understand that you don't have to necessarily go back in there and dig it up. It can be somatic. It's in your body. Certain type of body works can actually help. And what Golden Rule tries to do is offer kinship. Now, kinship is a word that we're borrowing from Homeboy Industries.
Oh, that's a beautiful word.
It is a beautiful word, and the kinship part of what we do, and right now it's pretty much the majority of what we do, is we're just there for people. We'll listen. We'll provide transportation to where you need to go. I mean, my tagline is, we're where the community meets the agencies. We're not necessarily professionals offering services. We're volunteer community members who want to do something, who want to help. And it's going to be difficult to measure our impact, because even though I personally think that our impact will be huge and profound, it's going to be these subtle things. It's going to be someone feeling like someone cares. It's going to be someone having someone to call when they're in crisis. It's, for instance, when someone has their first day of work, if I'm able to, I will take them. I will drive them so they don't have to be navigating the bus and trying to figure out and worrying about being late. I want them to feel when they've arrived to be in that calm state.
Right. Confident.
Because, again, what the science is showing, when you're in that fight or flight space in your head, your thinking rational brain shuts down. If there was a bear in this room, our bodies would tell us to run. And so what happens is your analytical brain is going to shut right down, and the adrenaline's going to kick in, your body's going to activate, and you're going to move. And that is a very healthy survival protocol, so to speak. But children who were raised in toxic environments where dad coming home drunk at the end of the night is the bear in the room, and so they become hypervigilant. Their system literally is switched into hypervigilance, which means that flight or fright adrenaline system is on too much. That means their brain's not working right. That's why these kids are showing up at school with ADHD. They're failing to thrive in school right off the bat. Then they get put in that school to prison pipeline.
Right.
And so the reason I'm giving you this really long answer to this question is, if you understand the mechanics of the brain, and you understand the mechanics of what most of these people have experienced from birth onwards, then you understand what you're dealing with. So now offering these little, simple, friendly, kind, contacts with people is actually healing. The science shows that and you let people, in What Happened to You, the book I'm reading right now, they talk about like children who, the example they give, a little boy whose mother was shot in front of him.
Yeah.
He just says, he told a store clerk, my mom was killed. And then the dad wanted him to talk more, but that was all he could handle. And so with trauma, if you let people let it out just a tiny bit at a time, it doesn't have to be a big disclosure. This is where the healing happens. So the resiliency, which absolutely is the opposite of trauma, the resiliency, allowing people to heal. I think that golden rule is community members just being good listeners.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
I care.
That's right.
And if they don't want to talk about it, it's not like what happened to you. We don't have to know.
Or
but-
like you said, what's wrong with you? No.
Yeah,
There's
I mean,
nothing wrong with anyone.
no, they're wired for survival. They have very intelligent
are.
systems that, due to unhealthy, unnatural environments, have
Yes.
caused them to shut down.
And so we hear a lot about informed care these days. And what does that mean? And how does Golden Rule Reentry approach this? And you got into that a little bit.
Yeah,
earlier.
that's kind of what we were just starting to talk about. We just look at people as a whole person. If you go to our website, which is goldenrulereentry.org, at the bottom of the homepage, we have what we call the spirit of Golden Rule Reentry. And it's kind of hidden. I need to make it more prominent, but it's going into these things. We understand that people are complex, that they've had things happen, and that in order to help them and help the community, we need to treat people with respect. We need to empower people. A lot of the problem with being incarcerated is you're completely disempowered. It is the complete disempowerment. You are handcuffed. If they want to hit you, if they want to throw you on the ground, break your face, it's not up to you to defend yourself even. And so I have people very close to me who have experienced that, and that the trauma from being disempowered. So even if you didn't have a traumatic childhood, being locked up, being caged with people who can harm you, whether it's your cellmate, the people in the yard, the guards, whoever, there's definitely a level of trauma there as well. Absolutely. So at Golden Rule Reentry, that is our main focus. We do have 6 program areas, if I may talk about those. And most of them aren't really developed yet because we are so new. But the main things we're doing right now are kinship, which is just being there with the folks. And oh my gosh, I love them. They are so precious to me. I mean, this isn't just pretending to be friends. This is, true connection with folks that we work with. Then the other thing that we're good at is resource navigation. We've spent years now, a year and a half, just finding out what's available in Southern Oregon. And there's a lot of help available here. So we help people get what they need. But again, we don't just tell them where to go. We drive them. We don't just give them a form to fill out. We'll fill it out with you. We'll talk about it with you. We'll really help meet you where you are at. And that's part of being trauma informed, is not me thinking I know what's best for someone, but letting that person let me know what's best for them, letting them drive, because that's part of the empowerment. You take baby steps. So, I struggle with it. It's hard not to think you know what's best for someone. So, we're all works in progress. Sure. So the other things we offer besides resource navigation and kinship are, we're going to have a suite of self-assessment tools so people can really find their strengths. I think people are pretty already aware what their weaknesses might be. But we want to help people hone in on their strengths and help build more things in their life around that. We're going to be offering career support and especially entrepreneur support.
Great.
You think about people in prison, they're pretty resourceful, pretty entrepreneurial, some of them. And it's not easy getting a job out here.
No.
And so with a record. So it's not impossible, especially now with all the people hiring. But we definitely will help support people develop and vet ideas, get their businesses started. And that is something, if there's anyone out there listening to this broadcast who that's their specialty, I'd love to talk to you, because the community, this is where the community gets involved, bringing their skills in to help our people. Another thing that we offer is life skills. What I'm noticing, especially for people who've done a really long time, like 20 years or more, technology is a complete mystery. How to use your phone.
Right.
Time management. I've noticed some people, they don't think that you have to think backwards from the time you have to be somewhere. So this time the appointment comes around, they're at home going like, oh, I need to be somewhere. You know what I mean? So we work with the life skills. We're going to do like a sort of a college elective classes with life skills. We're going to do a certificate program. It's all still in the works. But the idea is, again, not everybody needs everything. So we will allow our participants to choose which skills they want and need, and then help build some sort of a class for them so they can get a certificate, which, anything positive you can get under their belts is helpful, plus the skills themselves. And then the last and probably most important, or one of the most important things, is trauma support. We we're not professionals, so we're not therapists, we're not counselors. We don't want to even go there. And there's enough support in the community for that. But what we are going to do is maybe alternative things. We're going to do a program like walk and talk, because when you walk, that actually regulates, it takes you out of that flight or fight syndrome and puts you back into your a regulated state. And so walking is something that can do that. So we want to do walk and talks with people. We've partnered up with Heart Math, who gave us some equipment. Heart Math, which is a scientifically based technique of bringing your heart rate down and bringing your body into coherence. It's so simple. I'll just tell you right now. The gist of it is this: you deep, slow breaths in and out of your heart. Deep, slow breaths in and out of your heart. And then you just think about something that makes you happy, whether it's a person, a pet, a scene, a memory, something that brings you joy. And that feeling that you get combined with breathing slowly in and out of your heart absolutely brings you into coherence. It's so simple. It's deceptively simple.
We're talking with Abigail Lewis, who has developed Golden Rule Reentry. And I want to read something that you wrote.
Okay.
Golden Rule Reentry is a trauma-informed, community-based organization that assists the formerly incarcerated through kinship, networking, classes, and services. Golden Rule fosters connection as well as personal and professional growth. That is so wonderful. That's true service. In my opinion, that's absolute. And for me, if I am not of service, I mean, I volunteer here doing this, and if I'm not of service, my life is not whole.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel that way. And I just want to reiterate to anyone listening is Golden Rule really wants you to be involved. And I know for me, like, it was just a secret desire that I wanted to help people coming out of prison. I also helped a lot of people and would get myself in all kinds of terrible situations. So if you're the kind of person who wants to help, but you just don't feel that you have an in, because that's how I felt all my adult life. Yes. Golden Rule is your chance. We really, I'm going to back up just one second. Our mission really is to help people find fulfillment. Everybody that works with us, whether you're volunteering or you're someone we're working with. Yes. The problem is it's hard to measure that because the funding agencies are going to want to see what our results are. But at the end of the day, and we will have results, but at the end of the day, I'm much more interested if someone found a vocation to, like, art. I don't necessarily need them to have a job and a house to feel like I've succeeded. If they feel fulfilled, that they found some calling, that they're working with their strength, that they heal from their trauma, that they've committed to being a good person, and and not making the same mistakes that they've made before. If they focus on the children and their health of their children, these are the successes that I'm really focused on, and they will be the main focus of our work. And the other things, like having a job and a house and not committing crimes, those will be almost like the byproducts of the work that we do. So, sorry, I had to say that.
Well, it's about passion for life.
Yeah. Yes, and because
it's not encouraged in prison.
It's not. It's not. I mean, if you had a rough childhood, you got in with the wrong crowd, you did something bad, and I'm not trying to minimize it, but I'm just trying to paint the picture. Yeah. And then you go to prison, then you come out and everybody hates you. I mean, it's hard, and then you get a crappy job, and whatever. That's why if somebody has a job they don't like that's paying minimum wage, we still want to work with you, even though you might look okay to the mainstream checkbox. Okay, have you got a job? Have you got an apartment? We want to take you next level. We want to find what makes you happy. And then we'll help you do that. And, if you have a skill, especially say art, I always use this as the example, but if you're good at art, we can help you set up an Etsy site, and then we can help you with a legal side hustle. That's my dream, is to help people create side hustles so they have fulfillment and maybe additional income. And someone says, tell me about you. What do you do? They don't just have to say, I work, whatever. Yeah. I work at somewhere that's not that fulfilling, or I'm an ex-felon. I don't want people to have to say that. I want to say I'm an artist, and I've been, and I had a really intense life, and I'm using this artwork to talk to other people about it. So we really want to help launch people into these much more fulfilling areas of life, because everybody rises. This is what we need. I mean, you want the community safer. You don't need to put more people in prison. You need to take those people and help them find their joy.
That's right. Do you hear her enthusiasm? I mean, it's flowing all over the studio. It's just, it's wonderful. I'm so happy you're here.
Me too.
I'm Abigail Lewis, and this is KSKQ 89.5 FM and 94.1 FM and KSKQ.org all over the world. And so we already talked about why you named your organization, what you named it. So if people want to help to get involved, do they need any particular qualifications?
No, and I'm so glad you asked that because really, if you have ears and a heart, you're already qualified. But this is how we're doing this.
Wait, let's say that again. If you have ears and a heart, you are qualified to be involved with Golden Rule Reentry. I think we have those.
Yes, I mean that is really what it takes. We understand everybody's busy. God knows we understand that. So you can get involved from the very intensive to the very not intensive. So the most intensive and the most, I think, rewarding is becoming a Golden Rule navigator. We will train you intensively. We will train you on active listening, how to be trauma informed. We'll give you the mental health first aid training that Jackson County is doing, suicide prevention. We'll have you talk with various people. You know, there's a lot of support for people that are navigators. Then we pair you with somebody, and you don't do it alone. We're all there with you. All the navigators share this responsibility, but you would be the lead with somebody, and your main job really is just giving them rides, listening, just being a caring person in their life. You know, you're kind of like their flat tire friend, as it were. You don't have to be that intensive. Other ways you can volunteer are if you have a skill, let's say you are a life coach. Let's say you're a massage therapist. I'm absolutely looking for massage therapists.
That are willing to give of their time.
Yeah. If you have a skill, if you're a hypnotherapist, whatever it is that you are, if you would like to maybe do once a week, once a month, donate a session, call me because we don't want to be burdensome to you. But if we'll figure out how it works for you. I've got community members who are teaching financial intelligence and credit repair. I've got a community member who's a health coach who can teach about nutrition.
Good.
I've got a number of life coaches, and we could always use more. So if you have a special skill that you want to donate, great. The other thing is the Golden Rule Network, and that's going to be, we haven't built it out yet, but it's going to be some sort of platform. I'm not sure if it's on Facebook or email or something else. But if you just want to be in the loop, we will send out an email. And the example I always use is, hey, Mary just moved into a new place and needs a sofa. Does anybody have an old sofa? Right. Bob needs a car. Can anybody donate or sell us a car real cheap? You know, things that the community members may have that they could put to really good use as they wish. Perhaps we'll need a space to have an event. We might need an office to conduct a conference, you know, things like that. So we'll be putting out our needs. And then if that's something you feel you can do, it doesn't commit you to anything. You're not, you know, we're not going to come back to you every week asking for the same thing. Mm-hmm. But anybody in the community, if none of this even makes sense, but you still want to get involved, please call me. And please
What's the phone number? What's the phone number?
It's on the website. I'll just go ahead and give you...
Yes.
My cell phone, I guess, because it all comes to me in the end. 541-690-0745. Texting is definitely the best way to reach me because I do still have 2 other regular jobs in addition to this.
What a hardworking woman.
I do work hard, but you know, as those of us who work hard, you're happiest when you work hard.
True.
I would like people to go to our website. On the inspirations page, we have a curated YouTube video selection. And the first 3 on the top row are so important. I think if you watch these 3 videos, you will, if you haven't seen them before, you will be transformed. Good. And you will understand my heart.
So it's Golden Rule Reentry, REENTRY.
Yeah, Reentry has 2 E's, so it looks weird.
.org.
GoldenRuleReentry.org.
And you'll be able to connect with Abigail Lewis.
Yeah.
Abby Lewis.
We have definitely, contact us on the page. You can fill out a survey if you've been incarcerated. Let us know what you think we should be doing. And these videos, I think, are very instructive. We've got podcasts on there now. We're going to be building out resources like how to use your phone. We're going to do a lot of stuff online because we were born during COVID.
Right.
So we know that.
So I'm also curious about this. It comes up for me. What if people have this belief that all people who are incarcerated are bad people, scary people, people they don't want to get to know? Because that's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep stuff that we also learned in childhood and from media. And it's true. We have to be careful. But how do people that want to work with you or might want to work with you get through that feeling?
That's such a good question. And, I think all those crime shows that started up in the late 80s, what a detriment to society that these programs are. Yeah, some people are dangerous and, especially if they're have addiction issues and are using drugs, for sure. So I don't want to paint a Pollyanna picture, but
Good.
Let's just put that aside because we acknowledge it. These folks are human beings. And if you watch the first video on our inspirations page, the Homeboy Industries, you'll get a taste of that. And that's something Golden Rule is what we're going to do. We're going to have a whole media program where we feature people that we work with. So you can actually get to hear their stories because you can't really hate someone when you really know them.
That's right.
And these folks I work with, I can tell you, they are so sweet and so grateful and so, oh my gosh, somebody wants to help me. And that breaks my heart that they're even surprised that somebody wants to help them. To me, they are so beautiful as people. And you're missing out. If you're not, if you're just sitting there judging them, you're missing out on the whole point of being a human, which is to love each other,
Yep, and understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, and I remember so well working in, doing these workshops in prison, the Love and Forgiveness workshop.
Yeah.
And these guys, they're all tatted up and they look, they look scary. A lot of times they're prison tats, and so they make sure they look scary.
Yeah.
But they're not scary people, is what I got to experience, especially people who want to change.
That's the key.
That is
the key because you can't help, we can't help everyone, but we sure will help the people who want the help.
Yes.
And that is where you need to focus, not you, but that's where anybody needs to focus their attention.
Yeah, well, me too.
Yeah.
I have to focus my attention that way as well in my life, in my daily life. And that's what we're hoping. I'm on her team already, that we'll have a lot of people in the community. I gave 2 days every 3 months to volunteer in the prison process that I worked in. It was huge. It was a lot. And I had a full-time business, et cetera, and it was so worth it to me because it made the rest of my life more whole, more fulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah, getting involved in this kind of work is so fulfilling. And, and even with the people that we work with, participants who come through, not just come through our program, but who get on that track to healing, we want them to come back and then be part of Golden Rule as well.
Yes.
Because service, sometimes you can't make up for the crime. If you killed someone or if you did some harm that's not really repairable, it's just ever so important to do that kind of service work. One of my board members is the founder of Criminon. And Criminon is an amazing organization that sees criminality as a process addiction like gambling. It's something that you think about. You think about planning. It's the execution of it is exciting, and it becomes a lifestyle. And so Criminon actually is an amazing organization that has, like NA or AA, has a support group system for people who don't want to keep, glory storing these things that they do.
Right. That's a great term, glory storying.
Yeah.
Really good term because most of us are just a huge bundle of habits.
Yeah.
And the way our minds think, correct?
Yeah.
And so it's to observe the mind thinking, which is an ancient spiritual premise, to watch the mind, not only allow the mind to run you.
Exactly. Yeah, becoming conscious really is one of the first steps for any kind of recovery. Is and not beating yourself up. You know, if you're deep in your addiction, you know, you don't need to get beat up when you fall off the wagon. You need support, and it's so hard not to get mad at people. When they, you know,
well, it's not just, usually mad; it's fear.
Yeah, it's just the chaos, the ensuing chaos that comes down the pipeline when someone is using.
Fear for you, fear for them.
Especially with the fentanyl. There's a lot of fentanyl, so people are dying. There are now kits where you can test meth and things like that for fentanyl and actually clean it, which it's kind of like the needle program. It's like, you know, but it's important. Good. It's very good.
Oh, there was just a young woman that I know, under 30 years old, that OD'd on and died.
So
on
sad.
Fentanyl and heroin, and you know, she was a fabulous young woman.
It's so sad.
So sad.
The opposite of addiction is connection.
That is brilliant.
I didn't make that up. That's on those first 3 videos. I can't stress enough. I forget his name, but he talks about that. The title of the YouTube is called "Everything You Know About Addiction Is Wrong," but the message that he gives is that the opposite of addiction is connection. The other video, which you'll like, it's the Compassion Prison Project. That's Fritzi Hortzman. She goes into prisons and talks to people about trauma that they've experienced. And this is such a powerful, powerful video. It's called Step Inside the Circle. And, you know, talking about not demonizing people in prison. You watch this. I really hope everyone will go to my inspirations page and watch that video. It is.
So it's Golden Rule, Reentry.org. And you can see these wonderful videos.
Yeah, under the inspirations page.
Have you ever heard of The Work? It's a video of guys in prison doing work.
No.
With guys outside.
Oh, cool.
So they come in and the guys, and they're tatted up and scary looking and they're fabulous. They do work, emotional work with outside people. It is outstanding.
Can't wait to see that. Is that on YouTube?
I have it.
Okay. We will talk about that. We're going to try to do a work program. We actually have a consortium that's building right now to build modular homes, have people coming.
Oh.
So Snake River has they make cabinets and they have a shop there. And the person who developed that is actually helping Golden Rule develop a program where we work with people on the inside. And then also people as they come out will be, this is the plan. It's, you know, it's not a thing yet, but we'll help them, we'll employ them to build these modular homes, which we can then use to help house the homeless and people coming out of incarceration. So we'll probably be looking for land and these kind of things. Real estate donations is another thing that Golden Rule is very interested in. So if anybody has property they want to donate, that we could talk. Can I let anybody know about some of the things we're offering right now? Super quick.
We have 1 minute.
Okay.
So go.
Okay. So Mondays at 6 p.m., we do a free Zoom guided meditation talking about getting in coherence and calming down. You don't need to have any meditation experience. It's beautiful. It's Zoom. You just come. You can turn off your camera. You don't even have to show your face if you don't want to. And we also have a loved ones of the incarcerated support group. I will be posting the new times. We're in a middle period, but I'll post the times on the website soon. And if you have somebody who's incarcerated, please come to the support group.